In part 4, we looked at Lindsay Clancy's reported psychiatric medication timeline from September of 2022 through January 2023, and we established one important principle, that a prescription history does not tell us exactly what someone was actually taking. Now we are going to look at it one step deeper, because when we look at the individual medications, when we look at their doses, their possible indications, and the timing of the reported changes, there are several important lessons for psychiatric providers. And if you did not watch part 4, here is the quick recap. So Lindsay Clancy was reportedly prescribed multiple psychiatric medications across several medication classes and treatment settings during the months preceding to January 24th, 2023. But the available prescription timeline does not establish that she was taking all those medications simultaneously. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Georgette, a psychiatric provider and a psychiatric educator. This is part 5 of my Lindsay Clancy's educational series. The trial remains ongoing as of August of 2026. This discussion is strictly educational. It is not intended to independently diagnose Lindsay Clancy, determine criminal responsibility, establish professional negligence, or prove that any medication caused her actions. Now, so we are going to start with zolpidem, which is also known as Ambien. Zolpidem, commonly called Ambien, it is a sedative hypnotic used for insomnia. Restoring sleep may be extremely important in someone experiencing severe postpartum psychiatric symptoms, but Ambien is a sleep medication. It does not independently treat an underlying manic or psychotic disorder. Ambien can also cause sedation and memory impairment. The FDA also carries a black box warning for rare but potentially serious complex sleep behaviors, such as sleepwalking or engaging in activities while not fully awake. That does not mean Ambien caused or contributed to what occurred in this case. The clinical lesson is broader. If severe insomnia continues despite treatment, it is important to reassess the diagnosis and the overall clinical picture rather than focusing only on adding another sedating medication. Now, look at the benzodiazepines. The reported history includes 3 benzodiazepines. We have lorazepam, clonazepam, diazepam. Again, that does not mean that she was taking all 3 medications at the same time. Instead, when multiple benzodiazepines appear sequentially in a medication history, as a psychiatric provider, I want to reconstruct what happened. Was one medication replacing another? Was there an overlap? Was the medication scheduled or taken as needed? What was the actual frequency of use? Was the patient excessively sedated while taking these medications? Were there any cognitive changes? Was there any unusual agitation or disinhibition? Was one being tapered? And did each clinician know what the other clinicians had prescribed? Benzodiazepines may have been appropriate short-term roles in severe anxiety, acute agitation, catatonia, withdrawal, or insomnia, depending on the clinical circumstances, but they do not independently treat underlying bipolar disorder or a primary psychotic disorder. And after regular benzodiazepine exposure, abrupt discontinuation or overly rapid reduction can produce withdrawal symptoms. So some of the withdrawal symptoms can include significant anxiety, insomnia, agitation. In severe cases, withdrawal can include seizures or delirium. So again, the timeline matters. Now, let's talk about quetiapine. Quetiapine is a psychotropic. It is a second-generation antipsychotic commonly known as Seroquel. It is another important learning point. Quetiapine has several psychiatric indications. Schizophrenia, it can manage bipolar mania, bipolar depression, adjunctive treatment for major depressive disorder. It may also sometimes be used off-label for insomnia because of its sedating properties. So according to the reported timeline, quetiapine doses they changed during December of 2022. Reported doses include 25 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and 300 milligrams. But do not look at one isolated dose and automatically conclude that she was being treated for psychosis. We need clinical context. What was the indication for the Seroquel? What formulation was prescribed? Was it immediate release or extended release? How quickly was the dose changed? How long was each dose actually taken? Was the patient adherent to the medications? What else was being taken? After they took it, did the sleep improve? Did the mood improve? Did anxiety improve? Were there any psychotic symptoms that were present? And why was the medication increased, reduced, or discontinued? A lower dose being used primarily for sedation is not equivalent to a treatment strategy specifically targeting psychosis. Most of the times, lower doses help with insomnia and higher doses for psychosis. And a higher dose appearing on a prescription timeline does not establish adherence, effectiveness, or the prescriber's exact therapeutic intent. Then on the timeline too, on the medication timeline, we see lamotrigine, also known as Lamictal. It appears in the timeline on December 16 of 2022 at 25 milligrams. 25 milligrams is commonly an initial titration dose. Lamotrigine generally needs to be titrated gradually because faster titration increases the risk of Stevens-Johnson syndrome, severe rash, and this is important. Lamotrigine has an established role in the maintenance treatment of bipolar 1 disorder. It can also help manage depressive symptoms. So when you see lamotrigine 25 milligrams, do not automatically conclude that the patient was therapeutically mood stabilized. Instead, ask, when was it started? Was it actually taken? Was it titrated? How long was the patient taking it for? Why was Lamictal selected? There are a lot of mood stabilizers. What diagnosis or symptoms were being targeted by lamotrigine? And did the patient ever reach a clinically meaningful treatment course? The medication name alone cannot answer the questions. We cannot answer the question just by looking at the name. Then on the timeline too, we see buspirone, we see Benadryl. You can see Benadryl, buspirone. Buspirone is a non-benzodiazepine medication used for anxiety and generally requires consistent administration rather than functioning as an immediate rescue medication. Benadryl is a sedating antihistamine. Neither medication is a treatment for acute mania or psychosis. So if someone initially presents with what appears to be anxiety, but later develops severe insomnia, major behavioral changes, confusion, unusual beliefs, suicidal thinking, psychotic symptoms, or significant functional deterioration, providers need to pause and ask, am I still treating the same clinical presentation I thought I was treating several weeks ago, or has the clinical picture changed? Now, let's look at January 2023. This is the part of the timeline where I want psychiatric providers to pay close attention because the incident, the alleged killings happened in January of 2023. The reported prescription changes through January 2023. That timeline includes trazodone and lorazepam on January 5th, 2023, diazepam on January 9, 2023, then trazodone again on January 12, 2023, diazepam on January 13, 2023, and January 16, 2023, and amitriptyline was reportedly started around January 16 of 2023, with a reported dose increase by January 23, 2023. The killings occurred on January 24, 2023. Now, I want to stop right here because this is where retrospective analysis can easily become misleading. Temporal association is not the same as causation. A medication appearing days before an event does not establish that the medication caused that event. So what should psychiatric providers learn from the timing? Not that the medication caused what happened. Instead, what was happening clinically during that period? What was the patient's baseline before the medication change? What symptoms were being targeted? Why was that particular medication selected? Those are very important questions. What happened afterward? What did the patient report? What did the family observe prior to that incident? Were new symptoms emerging? Was the patient improving? Was the patient deteriorating prior to that incident? And what was the follow-up plan? Those are the clinically meaningful questions each psychiatric provider should take out of this.